Here we go. Sarah Rahman is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. She also graduated from Institute of Knowledge Seminary in Alamiya program with a master's degree in Islamic law and tradition. Sarah is an IOK community chaplain serving Southern California since 2019. In addition, she is a fellow at the National Board of Certified Counselors, so very accomplished and an inspiration for all the younger folks out there. Sarah, welcome. I'm going to let you be able to share your screen. So
Yes.
whenever you're ready.
Yes. One moment. Alrighty. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Let's
If
start
you can
from the,
just make it full screen, that would be great.
yeah, do it on present. I think that's the best it's gonna get. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone. Good morning. My name is Sarah, as you know. My topic was purification of the heart. Um, It's such a pleasure to be here. I was literally on my drive here thinking of how amazing this organization is and how, mashallah, it's grown. Um, and I hope that if anyone comes to Middle Ground, I hope I can meet you there in person. So today's talk is centered on a set of beautiful virtues emphasized in the Islamic tradition, principles that in truth are also present across many other faiths and wisdom traditions. I'll be focusing on the purification of the heart through an Islamic lens, drawing especially from the powerful work of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. I have the book right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's really, really incredible. There you go. I don't know. Anyways, I can link it later, but it's a really powerful book. While the languages comes from our tradition, the themes we'll explore in terms of anger, cleansing our heart, envy, cleansing our hearts from these diseases, self-awareness, sincerity, humility, compassion are universal. So they resonate with anyone seeking to live with more clarity, purpose, and spiritual grounding. This talk is designed for reflection, healing, and inner transformation. So as we are in the month of Ramadan, our focus is to purify our hearts and to really have that reflection or inner reflection of, what are some habits or qualities that I need to work on in my character. So let me just move this. A universal human question: how do we become better human beings, not just outwardly, but inwardly? A human condition, right? Islamic scholarship describes inner unrest not as a modern problem, but as a timeless human condition. Disease of the heart, classical scholars also identify inner traits that harm ourselves and others long before modern psychology. I can also reference books that are from Islamic tradition tying in psychology and spirituality. It's really, really amazing work. So the inner self, right? The heart refers to the moral and emotional center, while many traditions call the soul, conscious, and inner self. Oops. Heart in the Quran, the heart is mentioned many times, right? To transform, that transformation begins internally, right? The day when neither wealth or children will benefit except one who comes to God with a sound heart. So a sound heart is not perfect. As we all know, as humans, we make so many mistakes. We are people who are going to make mistakes, but that's not the focus. The focus is on being someone who has a heart free of from hatred, balanced in emotion, and that is focused on getting having compassion and truth, but really cultivating a kind self, right? So on the bottom right, authentic peace is not something we chase outside ourselves, but something cultivated within the heart. So what is purification of the heart, right? When we go in detail, when we ask ourselves, like, what are you actually talking about, Sarah? Right, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf presents these teachings rooted in classical scholars such as Imam al-Maulud, that's whose book he translates from. The main author is Imam al-Maulud's Matharat al-Qulub. So it's literally translated as the purification of the heart, describing spiritual psychology centuries before modern psychology existed. So now we're going to focus on the virtue and its opposing disease. So, disease of the heart when we have anger, right? What is the opposite, the healthy opposite? Forbearance, envy, contentment, arrogance, humility, greed, gratitude, resentment, and then the healthy opposite is forgiveness. Right? This mirrors modern psychology's insight of emotional suffering often comes not from the events themselves, but how we perceive them and how we react to them. So, something that I know from my personal experience with my mom is being very, when an adversity comes or when a difficulty comes, being patient and seeing what is the best way to respond. And that's hard, but with patience, that gives you the opportunity to help yourself react in a wiser way. And of course, with a lot of practice. So the first disease or virtue that I want to talk about is anger. And I'm going to actually reference the book because it's so beautiful. Actually, I wanted to start off with how Sheikh Hamza Yusuf describes the heart. So he said the heart is centered slightly to the left of our bodies. Two sacred languages of Arabic and Hebrew are written from right to left. Toward the heart, which some have noted mirrors the purpose of writing, namely to affect the heart. One should also consider the ritual circumambulation or circling around the Kaaba or the ancient house in Mecca during pilgrimage. It is performed in the counterclockwise fashion, with the left side of the worshipper facing the house, with the heart inclined towards it to remind us of God and his presence in the life of humanity. Right, so it was just so amazing. And then in terms of the anger, so in this book, how he defines each disease of the heart, he gives the antidote. So I'm going to go to it right there. Okay. So, how he does it is he actually gives poems for each disease. So, as for the swelling ocean of all these diseases, I mean anger, if you come to its shore, you will see great astonishments. Its waves and everything else about it are overflowing. So, say of it what you will come without constraint. It has two treatments. One of them removes it altogether without a trace. The other suppresses it should it manifest itself. To be adorned with the ornament of its cure, remember the extensive praise lavished upon forbearance and humility. In sacred law as well as in the poetry of and prose of the wise. Indeed, remember that all of the prophets have been depicted as having both qualities. Repel anger by perceiving at its onset that there is no one doing anything in reality except the Almighty. Also by performing ablution with cold water, keeping silent, and lying down if one is sitting, and sitting if one is standing. It will pass by doing these things, and also by seeking refuge in God, as it was mentioned in the tradition. So Imam Maulud says that the next disease is like anger is described as a swelling ocean. And if you think about it, when any of you guys, all of us have experienced this feeling, you do have this overwhelming emotion, right? And it does actually, when I was thinking about it, it's like an ocean. But it's swelling, so it's really inflamed and it's hurting at the same time. So he describes it as a swelling ocean because it's a swelling mass of emotion that is difficult to hold back once it's unleashed. At the same time, anger is truly an amazing phenomenon if one reflects on its nature and presence in human life and character, as well as its utility and necessity. So, right, anger itself is not evil. It's actually telling us that something is bothering us. That's why our whole body gets affected, right? We get angry, our cheeks get red, or we might be pulsating here, our heartbeat is louder. Faster. So, anger itself is not evil. In Islam, anger is seen as a protective emotion and just like I mentioned, a signal that something matters and a response to injustice. However, when it's unmanaged, it can become really corrosive or detrimental. So the Prophet ﷺ says the strong person is not the one who overpowers others, but the one who controls himself when angry. So notice the redefinition of strength. It's not domination on others. However, or more so, it's self-mastery, that I have a control over my own emotions. So, from a mental health perspective, right, when we say that a child is angry or we're feeling angry, there are more feelings that are under that. There's hurt, fear, shame, or an unmet need. Literally, my nephew came on the weekend and he started getting so angry. He was throwing something and everything. But what was it under? He was actually really hungry. And yes, he's two, but even as a 30-some person or all of you guys, we also experience the same thing. So, what unprocessed anger causes is that it can really have this overlying stress on us, a chronic stress. It can break relationships. It can cause this anxiety, depression, and literal manifestation in our physical health. Right? Neuroscience shows repeated anger strengthens reactive pathways in the brain, and Islamic spirituality recognized this centuries ago that habits shape the soul. So as we go to the next one, I'll explain a little more. So practical tools, because when we constantly have the same reaction, we will make it as a habit. So pause and silence, right? So the Prophet ﷺ advised, and just as I mentioned in the poem, pausing, changing our posture, remaining silent, making wudu or ablution to cool the body, right? Drinking water. So I'm going to do the prophetic and then also the modern versions of today. So the prophetic advice is to stop or to stay quiet. Modern equivalent is stimulus interruption. So when I work with couples, when they are fighting or someone gets upset, I invite them to take a break. And what that means is that both of them either remove from the area or, go for a walk, make wudu, drink, drink water, just divert themselves. So, kind of that interruption. So, they divert themselves. So, you're not focusing on what's increasing and making you so upset. Changing the posture, right? Sitting if you're standing, lying down if you're sitting. So the modern equivalent is a nervous system regulation. So basically changing your position or behavior. An example of that is taking deep breaths, calming ourselves, and then ebullition with water, emotional grounding, right? So maybe even doing something with our hands physically. When we use our hands and we put it on our shoulders, it really helps self-soothe us and calms us to remind us that, hey, you're okay, you're safe, you're not in harm's way, so you don't need to react a certain way. Okay. So different languages, same wisdom. Anyone have any other practical tips for anger that they saw from their loved ones or they practiced themselves? No.
I think removing yourself from that situation or just,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, I will go to the next one. So, diseases of the heart, envy, right? Your desire of another losing their blessings. So, many people kind of confuse jealousy with envy, but jealousy is that comparison mindset of like, oh, well, they have this, so I want it. Whereas envy takes it to the next step of literally wanting the other person to not have that blessing and for you to have it. So it is really scary because many of us, so even in this picture, right, the person is envious that they're in their family together, they're happy, they're celebrating. And jealousy is, oh, I wish I had that. Envy is, I want them to not have it anymore. Right. So the Prophet ﷺ says, beware of envy, for envy consumes good deeds like fire consumes wood. So, oops. Okay. Why envy hurts us, right? So, uh, the reason why I'm going to also talk about jealousy is because they go so hand in hand. And with jealousy, it starts off with the comparison trap. So many of us, right, including all of you, have social media, smartphones, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, just YouTube shorts, right? And people are showing so much of their lives. Even when on this platform or when you meet in person, someone is talking about their grandchildren, someone is talking about their children. It's so easy to feel that comparison of, oh, I don't have that, right? So envy creates this constant comparison and it doesn't allow you to celebrate others. And that's like we saw right here. No, right here. The opposite of envy is, or the healthy, opposite is contentment. So feeling that sukoon or that inner peace that whatever God has given me, I am grateful for. And I'm happy that I have what I have. Right? So that's why when even and I use social media as such a strong example because many times we're not meeting people in person, we're seeing them more on our phones, right? And or even again YouTube. So YouTube shorts are very common and you're seeing so many people's lives and then immediately our brain goes, I wish I had that. I want that. That's so cool. I should get that. Oh, look at them. The couple is so blissful. They're so perfect for each other. And then you're like, well, I wish I had that. Okay, that goes to jealousy. And then if it goes even deeper, right? Because it's that constant comparison, then you don't actually become happy for the person. You go to that deep disease of the heart, right? Of not even wanting to be celebrating them, dissatisfaction of your own life. Even though we have so many blessings, we don't want to look at that. So modern psychology calls this the comparison trap. Right, amplified today by social media. Research shows comparison correlates with lower self-esteem, increased anxiety, and depressive symptoms. So, what I mean by that, right? When we have lower self-esteem, when we're not looking or being content with what we have, when we're not taking moments of, and I love that, Olive has yoga and, moments of focusing on what we're grateful for, taking those deep breaths to see, wow, alhamdulillah, I can, breathe properly. I don't have to use an oxygen mask. I don't have to use so many things. I can breathe on myself, on my own. I can move on my own. I have so many blessings. That's when we practice these things as gratitude and contentment, that increases our self-esteem because we're focusing on the good that we have versus what we don't have, right? Islamic scholars described envy as pain at others' blessings, right? The suffering occurs inside the envious person first before reaching harm to others. So, how we can use the antidote is, and I took this picture from the Olive website of hiking. I was like, how can I use something? Or I was like, I know they go hiking, so let me try to find a picture. So gratitude and perspective, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you are grateful, I will increase you. So the reason why I chose this picture is because when we connect with nature, which Olive does so nicely as a group and encourages us all, um, in the home and outside, then we are really able to see so much of God's beauty. Like I was telling Zainab Baji that, I'm coming from a doctor's appointment and I was literally driving and the mountain looks so beautiful. There's a beautiful snow cap. I live in the Inland Empire, so I get to see the mountains and it looks gorgeous, you guys. I really hope you guys look outside and try to see. But that's an example. So gratitude shifts attention from scarcity to abundance. Spiritual wisdom and psychological science converge here, right? So they combine here. When we practice gratitude, it helps and it improves our emotional well-being. It improves our mood. It reduces stress, it lowers our cortisol, and in general, we have this greater resilience when, if you accidentally fall, if you accidentally cut yourself when you're cutting, chopping something, you're able to not be have that reaction of anger or really harshness. Um, right? Grateful individuals recover faster from adversity. Alrighty, lastly, ill will and resentment. So, the reason why I chose this, again, I really strongly recommend this book by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. It's called Purification of the Heart. And he really goes into detail of each disease of the heart. But I chose resentment because, as many of us are immigrants in this population, or many of you guys that I'm speaking to today, you know, there's a lot that our kids are able to have that we didn't, right? And some of it is gratitude, and we're happy and proud and prideful that we're able to create this life for them. And at the same time, whether it be with friends, children, loved ones, community, sometimes we have resentment, or even family members, spouses. We have this disease called ghil, right? This lingering resentment or malice, right? The Quran describes the people of paradise as those hearts that are purified. We will remove whatever malice, so rancor, bitterness that they had in their hearts. I invite the people who are married or were married or, are in long-term relationships to think about even, I mean, many of you guys, right? Maybe 15 years, 20 years. How much resentment was from year one to now? Right? And thinking of how can I remove that to help me feel lighter, right? Because if I hold on to the resentment, it's only hurting me, right? Paradise, right? This implies something profound. Paradise is not only a place, it is a state of heart. So I really want you guys to look at this picture of the boulder on this man's um, shoulders or back, right? We will use an exercise to do that. So why resentment is heavy, right? Holding resentment is like carrying emotional weight that literally like a potato sack that never rests. Clinically, chronic resentment is directly linked to measurable harm. You're constantly thinking about it, so you're having that anxiousness, you're having rumination, right? You're just going in a circle about the past pain, preventing presence and peace because you're thinking so much about the past and the wrongdoings that were done to you. And again, as we know, I'm not trying to dismiss that if you had an injustice happen to you, that we should completely ignore it. What I'm inviting you to consider is how can you make peace with it? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or God is the all seeing. And we believe that on the day of judgment, that will be completely restored, that justice will be restored. So, or even for those who don't have that belief, thinking of if I constantly think about it right now, I will have anxiety. I will have blood pressure or high blood pressure. I will not have this inner peace. So, in order for me to be present and to be able to move forward, How can I feel that مطمئنة, like sukoon, that inner peace, right? Our stress hormones, chronic resentment elevates our cortisol, damaging physical and mental health over time. Sleep and burnout. So many people, my clients describe that they're not able to sleep because they're constantly ruminating or feeling anxious about something, or whether they've been hurt or they're upset about something, right? So it disturbs sleep and accelerates emotional burnout, right? Forgiveness in psychology is not excusing harm, it's releasing the emotional burden for yourself, right? And that's really important. It's not, others are not thinking about how they harmed you. They're going about their lives. I mean, hopefully good people are and you can talk about it with them. But more so, if it's having so much rent in your mind, it's only causing you harm, right? That emotional burden. So the prophetic model of forgiveness, right? It's for that emotional freedom. I refuse to let pain define my inner world. So it's restoring agency and it's choosing not to be imprisoned by what has done to you. So in therapy, we use this technique and this mode of therapy called narrative therapy. So it's really literally rewriting your story where you have that agency and power to change what happened in the past. Alrighty. So across faith traditions, transformation follows similar steps, right? Awareness, recognizing inner states honestly, we call it muhasaba. But one thing that I wanted to focus on is in the book, right? Sheikh Hamza Yusuf discusses how the way to purify our heart, right? I discussed the diseases, and now I want to discuss how to purify it, right? The most beloved disease deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or to God are those done consistently, even small. So when we take that moment to do deep breaths, to do istighfar, right? Asking God for forgiveness, recognizing how am I feeling right now? Have I wronged someone? When I talked to someone, just earlier the other day, I thought I responded, and then then someone called me, oh, you didn't respond. And then I was like, no, no, I responded. And then I looked and I didn't respond. So asking for forgiveness to the other person, owning reactions without self-hatred. So meaning that responsibility of, hey, I actually did make a mistake. I'm gonna ask for forgiveness. And then replacement, removing a vice by cultivating a virtue. So anger, envy, resentment, right? With contentment, gratitude, compassion, patience. And then, right, as we are humans, just like prayers prescribed 5 times a day, because we are humans and we are forgetful beings and we need that reconnection to God many times, it's the same way that practice, right? Small, consistent actions reshape the heart over time. Any thoughts or questions? Okay. So, right, a shared human journey. The beauty of right, purification of the heart is universal, right? Every tradition speaks about inner refinement. We all have different languages, but one human pursuit, inner peace that leads to outer compassion, right? Christianity speaks of purity of the heart. Judaism speaks of repair of the heart. Buddhism speaks of teaching release from attachment and resentment. I've already shared a lot about Islam. And psychology speaks of emotional regulation and cognitive restructuring, meaning that we are able to redirect our thought process from anger to calmness and our negative thoughts to positive. And again, with practice. So imagine a world where people worked on their hearts as much as their achievements. As a whole, we would have less envy and more cooperation, less anger, more understanding, less resentment, and more healing, right? So in the Quran, it says God doesn't change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves, right? Purifying the heart is not withdrawal from the world, it is preparing the heart to serve the world better. So I want all of you guys to to look at this picture and really think of what are you holding on your back? What is a stressor, maybe some resentment of the past, anger, envy, um, maybe ill will towards someone? We all have it. It's not that, we're perfect and none of us experience these things. Maybe maybe this attachment to the love of the world. Um, oops, sorry. Fear of poverty, relying on other than God, seeking reputation, false hopes, negative thoughts, vanity. So, now to take a few minutes for each of us to reflect on our anger. Is there anger that I'm holding on that no longer serves me? Right? Reflect on comparison. Is there someone I compare myself to that diminishes my own peace? Sorry, guys. Um, and this one I want to focus on because whether it be family members, friends, again, social media, who am I comparing myself to? And something that we work on in therapy is reflect on whose inner voice is comparing in my head. So, what I mean by that is many times we had a harsh critic that suppose you showed, oh, mom, I got an A plus on this, or dad, I got an A plus on this, or sorry, I got an A minus. I got an A minus. Instead of saying good job, their mind was, why didn't you get an A plus? Or, you did a speech. Why didn't you mention this? That's the immediate thing. Instead of these are the really good things, right? In therapy, we have the hamburger or the hot dog method of saying something positive, complimenting something positive, giving constructive criticism, and then something positive. So for all of us, whether it be a family member or many times it's us, it's we are the harsh critic to ourselves. And you have this standard which is not allowing us to feel that contentment and inner peace of gratitude that, alhamdulillah, I did this well, I tried my best, I prepared, whatever the example may be. And then reflecting on resentment. Is there any resentment I'm ready to release? So going back to this, right? And I use this example because again, many of us are coming from or have lived here for so long, but they did come from a different country and they worked so hard. But they did have to leave something, or maybe I'm holding on to something that I don't know about. So, what is something that if I were to release this big potato sack, I will feel so much lighter? And maybe my back could even stall. Sorry, my back could even, what am I saying? To be stand taller. That's what I'm trying to say. My back could stand taller, right? A lot of us have that we're holding on to something, our shoulders are tense and they're all inwards, right? So, what is something that I'm ready to release? Take a breath and name one quality you want to cultivate this week: patience, gratitude, forgiveness, humility, or even contentment. I'm going to pause here and ask each of you to let me know.
Something I've noticed there, it may not be a personal thing, but having worked with a lot of the elders in the community, there are some individuals that, for whatever reason, there's a sense of anger, like you can see the bitterness or just
Mhm.
an angry disposition. So you don't know how to approach them, right? Like you want to
Yeah.
care, you want to still be giving and compassionate, and you know that they're struggling. That's just their defense mechanism maybe, or a way
Hmm.
to cover up what they're holding back. How do you
Hmm.
deal with that type of situation and show compassion?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I just want to add. my email, and then I'll share. Um, no, that's a really good question, and definitely, um, I can, respond to that. Um, I would invite you to go to them in on an individual level and maybe sh ask more about, what's going on, what's maybe bothering them. Many times people really just want to talk. They want to know about, like, they want to share their story, their problem, whatever's happened to them, or whatever, mistreatment has happened. And even giving a meal, sharing a meal with them, and then saying, again, not everyone is open to um, advice or suggestions. They think that how they are is fine, even if they're holding a very heavy or, angry demeanor. So I would encourage, still being your best self of a positive, uplifting person, and slowly making your way into their heart of how you can see what is bothering them. And then again, sometimes you can't resolve the issue, right? Maybe it's related to their children or their, personal life, but being that positive presence for them. And then on an individual level, if you were to ask, because that's like from your response, but for their personal thing, to really, again, and that's why I went to, is there an anger I'm holding on to that no longer serves me? If I'm constantly getting that feedback from others, or people are not coming close to me anymore when I come to Olive, when I come to any event or even family events, then that's a kind of a reflection and invitation to say, I'm I'm carrying myself a little bitter, and I need to work on, how to release that. So going back to the beginning of how to, oops, right? How to control one's own anger. So many times what I like to ask myself or to ask clients is, what is my anger masking? Am I hurt about something? Address it. Can I talk to the person? Am I scared about something? Am I embarrassed about something? Or if do I have an unmet need? Right? Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I like that you talked about hurt because I think there's a lot of hurt sometimes, right? That's masked in the anger.
There's a lot of hurt, right? Especially as we transition to another stage of life. We've never done it before. We don't know how to experience. We're not happy that certain parts of our body is not working, or we have to take so much medication, or we need help with XYZ, task. So it's that anger, definitely. But it's more of that hurt that I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. So, one thing that I always encourage my clients to do is to journal, right? That is your space to share whatever is bothering you, and it's only for you, right? And to talk to God. That's a beautiful way to relieve that, right? Just like how we use this to relieve that big potato sack on us, to just get it out. Just to close, right? Oh God, creator of all hearts, remove us from anger that harms us. So let me just move this. Envy that darkens and resentment that burdens us. Fill our hearts with compassion, clarity, and peace, so that we may be a source of healing for others. And just last one, if you want to connect with me, you're more than welcome to email me at sarahrmft@gmail.com. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Olive Community Services is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Southern California that provides culturally appropriate services to seniors, their family, and the community. Through its physical and virtual interactive programs, Olive engages participants in a variety of ways that promotes health and well-being. To learn more about Olive Community Services, to get involved, or to make a donation, please visit www.olivecs.org or email info at olivecs.org. Be a change maker, and together, let's live, learn, and thrive.